Hello, my name is David Morgan, and today I'm going to talk to you about cultivating a growth mindset for learning. By the end of this workshop, participants should be able to describe a fixed mindset and how it may impact learning, describe a growth mindset and how it differs from a fixed mindset, differentiate between achievement goals and learning goals, discuss ways in which anyone might improve their capacity for learning at any age, and develop opportunities to implement a growth mindset in the workplace. Air Force acquisition professionals, like many others, must have certain degrees and certifications to qualify for their jobs. But once these jobs are obtained, this suggests that people no longer need to continue to develop and grow. There are requirements for continuing education, but the goal is to achieve some number of hours, such as 80 hours every 2 years, rather than having a goal of development. Therefore, many people will choose the path of least resistance rather than push themselves to learn and grow. This is often referred to as a culture of box checking. First, I'll discuss the fixed mindset and how it may impede learning. Most of us are familiar with the intelligence quotient, or IQ, as a test of learning ability. This test is usually given to children or young adults and has been a benchmark of intelligence. Of course, such testing is useful in a certain context, but the problem with this testing is that it creates a mindset that suggests individuals have a limit to their capacity for learning that they will not be able to exceed in their lifetimes. Researchers in the 1970s and 1980s did a study with children using marshmallows. The researchers wanted to see how many children would accept an offer to have two marshmallows instead of one if they would wait to eat the first marshmallow. They found that about a third of the children were able to resist the urge for instant gratification in favor of having more gratification. This suggested that despite the natural urge to get a treat, some children were able to improve their experience by merely waiting for some period. In a follow-up study, using the same participants, the children who had waited for their rewards seemed to have been more successful in academics and in other endeavors. This seemed to reinforce the notion that with a little more effort, patience, and tenacity, some children were able to rise above their natural proclivities and perform at a higher level. Along the same lines as the fixed mentality is having achievement goals instead of learning goals. Dr. Carol Dweck's research identified what she referred to as a flaw in education having to do with achievement goals. The idea behind achievement goals is that many students, after years of conditioning, are less likely to take risks and make mistakes because the focus is on high marks and praise from teachers and parents. Therefore, students will gravitate towards simpler tasks that they are more confident in rather than focusing on areas where they need improvement. Therefore, if we can, as educators and trainers, foster an environment of learning as the primary goal rather than achievement, we may get better results. In fact, Dr. Dweck's research supported this. Achievement goals only incentivize achievement, which is not, or should not be, the goal of education or training. If we concede that learning and growing should be the objective of education, then perhaps taking the focus from grades and putting it on growth and development will indeed result in more and better growth and development. In the case of Air Force acquisition professionals, the achievement goal pertains to achievement of whatever level of certification may be required, and then the achievement of 80 hours of continuing education every 2 years. Real learning, learning which is durable and long lasting, takes hard work and perseverance. But even more important than those, it requires a mindset which suggests that it is the learner's responsibility to grow and that they alone are responsible for whatever boundaries to their growth that may exist. For Air Force acquisitions, this may mean selecting coursework, which is more time consuming and more academically challenging, but is much more relevant to their work and might pay real dividends in terms of productivity. Dr. Dweck went on to say that most of the growth mindset has to do with the learner believing that they are not bounded by limitations, such as early childhood IQ tests or other measures. If students, both young and old, are frequently reminded that they can continue to learn and that their abilities are not in fact fixed, then we are likely to see much better performance from them. Two ways in which people can grow beyond their perceived limitations is through deliberate practice and memory cues. Dr. Anders Ericsson did research on experts and expertise in order to gain a better understanding of what makes truly exceptional performers excel at what they do. He found that what most of us consider to be attributed to natural talent is actually a product of years of sustained, deliberate practice, at least 10 years of such practice. This is the part that most of us don't see on television or while watching a sporting event or a concert pianist. The decade or more of hours and hours each day of practice, usually under the guidance or tutelage of another expert such as a coach. In the Air Force acquisitions world, this practice is, or should be, part of the experiential requirements for additional responsibility and promotions. Mnemonic devices and other tools are very useful in growing our capacity. When we say we have trouble remembering things, it becomes a limitation for us. Instead, if we choose, we can improve our memory skills, which is one of many steps to learning new material or subjects. The example provided here is SMART, but how many of us can remember the colors of the visible spectrum known as Roy G. Biv, or use songs like the alphabet song to help us remember our ABCs? Some of us may even remember multiplication tables, which becomes the foundation for more advanced arithmetic. The military and federal government in general are known for their acronyms, which are simply mnemonic devices for remembering policies, processes, and other initiatives. Air Force acquisition professionals must obtain certifications to hold certain positions. This involves both coursework and experience. The focus of these suggestions are for the academic side, with the assumption that the experiential side is in the purview of the employee and their supervisor and career field. What can we do to encourage and motivate professionals to continue to hone their learning beyond the required coursework and mandatory but often irrelevant continuing education? For the 80-hour requirement, if coursework could be developed to reinforce and even update concepts and learning objectives from coursework required for certification, a premium could be provided to incentivize acquisition professionals to focus on those critical areas of learning. For example, if there is a requirement for taking a course on logistics and sustainment in order to obtain a Level 2 certification, then taking a 4-hour refresher course might be awarded 6 units of continuing education instead of 4 to incentivize participation. Another approach might be to develop optional instructor moderated discussion forums for ongoing training on core material, which might also count for continuing education and for premium credit. These could be done as a time-bound series, such as 4 or 8 weeks, with a short test at the end to reinforce and evaluate learning. Again, this would require a bit more work for both the developers and the participants, but the Air Force benefits from the learning advancement, and the employees benefit by having more relevant training. Currently, the thinking is that additional master's degrees and postgraduate degrees are either superfluous or only worsen the attrition rates. The problem with this line of thinking is that for people who want to pursue these non-required learning opportunities, if they have to spend money out of their own pockets, they're that much more likely to leave, whereas having the service pay for the training or degree, with a requirement for service to follow, not only builds expert knowledge but also builds loyalty and stability. These opportunities may exist for active military, but they are not generally available to the civilian workforce. A learning mindset would be of enormous benefit to a military service that prides itself on growth and innovation. The sooner the Air Force can evolve from an achievement based, box checking culture to one that genuinely encourages growth and development, the more likely it will be to maintain its leadership in the world. This is the end of the workshop. Thank you very much for your time and attention today.